All right, now we're going to get to the fun part. And there was a lawyer who decided to get involved in this conversation. And naturally, because of the compartmentalization of the Bar Association, okay? Many lawyers have a one-track mind. They don't open up their perception to anything other than what they've been instructed to do, okay, or taught. Because if they do things that I'm talking about with you, they will be fucking disbarred. And there are thousands of lawyers out there that have figured this shit out, okay? And when they went to do the right thing because they were raised properly, or the law is written on their heart and they understand what they are doing, they stand up for what's right, and they are quickly and swiftly dealt with, okay, in some of the nastiest ways you could imagine. One, they're disbarred. Two, criminal sanctions are brought against them. Many of them have been put in jail. Many IRS agents that have figured this shit out have, requested that the head of the IRS come out and tell the American people what's really going on. They are quickly terminated from their position, forced to resign, and then later either threatened with incarceration and criminal sanctions. Two of which that I can think of: Joe Bannister. I think he did a short stint in prison, or they threatened him with prison. And there was another gal from the IRS. And let me be perfectly clear with you. These agents that once worked for the IRS were some of the top agents that they had ever hired. I mean, Joe Bannister is a fucking genius. There was another gal who saw an ad in the paper saying that if you can prove the income tax applies to me, I will give you $50,000. And she's like, shit, I got that in the bag. I work for the IRS, baby. I got access to everything. I ought to be able to whip this in fucking a week's time. 3 weeks passes by and she starts to realize, fuck, I think I'm wasting my time. I don't think I can prove how the IRS code, the IRC code, the income tax attaches to this man. I don't think I'm going to get this $50,000. When she took her information to her supervisors in the hopes that they would be able to provide the answer so she could go collect this $50,000, they slid over a piece of paper across the table and asked her to go ahead and resign. So the things that I speak to you guys about are well documented. There's plenty of evidence and proof out there that things are not the way that we've been taught they are. And I think most people deep down inside know they're not. And the typical rhetoric is, well, I'm just one man. What should I do, Derek? I mean, you're going up against a hell of an organization. No, I'm going up against a mindset, an idea. And even if the man that created these ideas perish, unfortunately, they have poisoned the minds of many into believing that it is because, well, it's just the way it's always been. And I'm here to tell you right now, it hasn't always been that way, all right? People said, well, the Magna Carta, Derek, that you speak of really isn't valid because the knights at the time held the swords to the throat of the king and forced him to sign. Yeah, well, he signed under duress, all right, but you know what? The Magna Carta is still in full force and effect. So I've been drawn to some other documents because, of course, the Magna Carta really didn't attach to the paupers. It attached to the wealthy people, the people who had land or thought they had land anyway, and the people that were pretty well off in society is really who the Magna Carta attached to. So when you go into a court and you say, hey, I've got reason to bring claim, I've been caused harm by way of trespass, by way of theft, or whatever the case may be, and the court says, oh, well, that'll be $400. Well, let me instruct you people. That's called baratry, money for justice. But if you read the constitutions, it's very clearly outlined that justice should be swift, without delay, without cost. Okay, which means you should be able to acquire a docket number just saying, hey, I've got a claim that needs to be settled here. I've got an issue that needs to be resolved. I believe somebody has trespassed against my rights, causing I a man harm, and you're adding injury after the fact by trying to charge me some type of money for which you can't even describe what you're asking for. Because under Title 31, you would be violating Title 31, and your ass would be subject to going to jail. Right? So it's about ascending of the mind. This is not an easy path, but again, freedom is not free, never has been free, never will be free. If you walk around all day long thinking you are free, I'm here to tell you right now that is the most facetious thought that you can be carrying with you, and it's absolutely damning. Because the truth be told, because of your actions, you've either entered into some type of blind adhesion contract through implied presumption and assumption. They're allowed to presume and assume that you are part of their organization or society. I once had a judge tell me sitting on the bench, Derek, in society, when one man talks, the other man yields the floor. And I said, you know what? I like that offer to contract. I accept that offer to contract, provided that anybody that interrupts anybody in this room at this point goes to jail for 30 motherfucking days. I accept your contract under the conditions that anybody that opens their mouth while somebody else is speaking and interrupts them or intrudes on them speaking goes to fucking jail. You know what she said? Well, I'm not going to agree to that. We're not going to enter into that contract. I don't agree. I see you're the one that fucking proposed it. Now all of a sudden you're going to renege on your fucking offer? You sound like a hypocrite. You look fucking stupid. So what is this? Is this a dictatorship, a democracy, or is this a fucking republic where people have common law rights and we stand upon sound doctrines and principles? I mean, these people just look so fucking stupid when you actually use your brain and you call them out on their bullshit. And when they make an offer to contract, instead of going into dishonor, remember, the one offering the contract is the debtor. The one accepting the contract is the creditor. And the creditor gets to set the terms and conditions to which they agree to the contract. If you make me an offer, you best believe that I'm going to conditionally accept it upon certain terms and conditions that I get to dictate, not you, you know? Hey, morning, Brother Keith. We're getting into some nitty-gritty here. I've been delving through this memorandum of law, and it is kick-ass, brother. I'm really appreciating it. And I see a path to some righteous remedy here, mainly because it resets the mind, it resets the brain. So this is the lawyer's response to what I've been talking to you guys about for the last 3 or 4 days. And it's quite comical, all right? And naturally, I want you guys to remember, so often when a man can't get you to believe the way he believes or get you to conform to his thought processes and theories, instead of agreeing to just disagree, they so often will turn to barbaric tactics, okay, where they will slander and defame and use foul language, and berate you and try to belittle you, which is the very essence of a narcissistic fool, all right? So don't let these people, when they start to slander and defame you and tell you you're crazy, tell you that you don't know what you're talking about, that you're ignorant, that you're dumb, you just don't know how to fucking read. I'm telling you right now, when you start putting the nail into the coffin, and you say, well, you know, here's the thing, I'd be more than happy to invite you to a court of law and we could figure out whether or not your belief is true, correct, and accurate. I mean, fuck, $1 in small claims court should do the deal. You bring your evidence, I'll bring my evidence, and at the end of the day, we'll see who stands. That's one way of doing it. But naturally, you can just rebut and rebuke everything they're doing. And the lawyers really hate it that the common man is starting to figure out how to stand up for themselves, how to stand on their square. They really fucking despise it because it's making their work very, very hard. One of the other things that should be duly noted is nobody has a right to an attorney. There is nowhere in any constitution where it says you have a right to an attorney, okay? it says you have a right to counsel. I've been reading through the CPS, Indiana Child Support, or not, Child Protective Services manuals and stuff, and it says in there that the guardian ad litems and the CASA caseworker managers are actually friends of the court, and that is why they're allowed to speak in the court. Now that's funny, because when I try to walk into the court, amicus curia, Mackenzie, friend of the court, and I know how to do it and what I'm doing, when I show them in Title 42 that I'm absolutely well within my rights, and they're well within their rights to have me in there to advocate for them and to help them navigate the treacherous waters they seem to be in, they go, oh, no, that's not going to happen. Yet, when I look at their rules and regulations for the CASA workers, it's quite entertaining how there is no equal protection of the law, and they welcome CASA workers who practice law without license in a commercial venue, who provide legal advice and make legal determinations while never fucking going to college or learning anything furthermore about law. I think what I saw for the CASA workers was a 30-hour class. 30 fucking hours. And the judge takes the advice of the CASA worker under great consideration, even though the motherfucker's got 30 fucking hours of training. And I guarantee you, very, very minute amount of it is actually about anything that has to do with law. It's more about the language that you will use, and don't ask questions, or don't answer questions. You only ask questions, and then you make your hypothesis based upon what you see. If there's 3 or more dishes in the sink, it's considered an unsanitary living situation for the offspring, and the offspring is being put in danger because there's 3 dirty dishes in the sink. I don't know who in the world that has 2, 3 kids ain't got a load of laundry to do and dishes in the fucking sink. That's just a fact of life, people. But this is the kind of nonsensical rhetoric that these people are using to steal offspring out of households. They come in, which, first of all, never invite these fucking people into your humble abode. Use the Castle Doctrine and tell them to fuck off right proper. They're not allowed in your house. You didn't ask them to be in your house. They're not your fucking friends. They're not there to fucking help you or your offspring. Make that perfectly fucking clear. They're not your friends, all right? In fact, they're incentivized to steal children and traffic children at a phenomenal fucking rate. And if they're not good at stealing 2 to 3 children a week, 10 to 15 children a month, they're relieved of their position, and they'll find some nasty-ass fucking ratchet motherfucker that will, okay? Many of the people that work for CASA are some of the nastiest, vile fucking people I've ever come across. I mean, it's just disgusting how entitled they are, how much they think they know, and they're really, really fucking cocky because they got the sheriff and the judge and lawyers to back them up, even though they're completely in the fucking wrong and 100% liable for what they're doing. And people say, well, Derek, what about the kids that are being abused? Hey, my heart goes out to them. It really does, all right? And there are offspring that need help. I'm not in denial. I'm not fucking retarded. There are people out there that really abuse offspring. But I'll tell you right now, this system abuses them more than anybody else. And separating, first of all, creating the war between men and women, which was very effectively executed with the Family Safe Care Act in the 6666 bill lodged underneath the legislature, okay, and the Social Security Administration Act and the Interstate Act and all those acts that look really fucking good on the surface until you start to read them. So they create a war between the families, so men and women hate each other. It's all about this financial wherewithal causing financial hardships, yada, 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 causes the mother and the father to disdain one another. They just have great disdain for one another, which reflects upon the offspring. The offspring sees this shit, doesn't understand it, then later on is kidnapped by the same agency that perpetuated the war between the family in the first fucking place. And now the offspring is 6 times more likely to be sexually abused in the care and custody of the state than in your own fucking home. 6 times more likely. And then also they're like, what was it? It was like 3.5 times more likely to suffer dramatic mental injuries and physical injuries. I mean, it's just fucking unfucking believable. Murder. So does the state really care? Do these actors really give a shit? No. It's a business model. How often have you heard a judge come down off the bench and say, I'm going to call little Susie, who I placed with such and such family 6 months ago, and I just want to see how little Susie's doing. They don't, because they don't care. All right? It ain't about little Susie. It's about the money they're making from the federal government in the form of grants and block grants, okay? Which is nothing more than bribery, as far as I'm concerned. Period. Cut and fucking dry. You can call it grants, you can call it fiat, you can call it fucking credits on account. I don't give a shit what you call it. When you incentivize certain results out of the justice system, or scientifically speaking, it's nothing more than a fucking bribe. You're paying for the results that you wish to see, and you're not going to publish the results that go against the ability to unjustly enrich yourself. That's just fucking human nature, for fuck's sake. Everybody knows that. They're very satanic. They are very, very evil motherfuckers. And the worst of all of it is, I have a CASA worker right now who's so fucking dumb. She was dumb enough to write in a report that I'm a sovereign citizen. And boy, oh boy, am I going to enjoy taking her fucking livelihood from her. Because she made unsubstantiated, unfounded fucking claims that her ass can't back the fuck up. And quite frankly, every lawyer that she tries to hire will more than likely run away when they see the documentation I put before the court, as I bring her ass in there to fleece her of everything she thought she fucking owned for being a nasty, rancid bitch. And those are just the facts. I mean, they take this hearsay. Remember, the guardian ad litem and the CASA worker, they provide nothing more than fucking hearsay. Everything they say is just hearsay. And when they're doing these things, they're actually making legal determinations without a bar card. They don't have a license or anything to practice law. They're not recognized by the Bar Association to make legal determinations. Who the fuck are these people to make legal determinations? You know, a friend of the court doesn't make a legal determination. They simply provide evidence to the court that shows in either previously established stare decisis cases that the court should take recognition of this man's rights here, as has been done for hundreds of fucking years, you know. This man is not a part of a federal territory. This man is part of a union of states. He has an allegiance to his state, and federal government has no part or business trying to dictate his life. So anyway, let's get into this, because this is an interesting part of this read, and a lawyer gets in here and starts to give his 2 cents, and I fucking love it, because the lawyer pretty much gets spanked, and when the lawyer gets spanked, he decides to use some not so nice language, and then pretty much terminate the conversation, as well as block these individuals from being able to correspond with him. And again, these people are being nothing but polite, nothing but professional, and they were simply just showing this lawyer what has been upheld for years. And he's like, oh, blow it out your ass. You guys don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I'm a lawyer. I know. Well, that's funny, because when you look at criminal prosecution, the state wins 98% of the time, which means that any fucking lawyer out there who's a defense attorney must not be worth a broke motherfucking dick. All right. Worthless as tits on a fucking boar. That means that 98% of the time, defense attorneys fucking lose. So you show me one defense attorney that's worth his weight in salt, and I'll fucking laugh my ass off. Because if they're losing 98% of the time and the state's winning 98% of the time, that means that only fucking 2 to 3% of the time, defense attorneys are actually prevailing. That's a pretty sad fucking track record for a lawyer who wants to boast about being damn good at his fucking job, if you ask me. That's a pretty piss poor performance. It's pitiful, in fact. And so, when I think about it, like, how would you fly on a fucking aircraft where 98% of the time it doesn't land on its fucking wheels? I wouldn't. I sure the fuck wouldn't. Just think about it in a practical sense. Would you get in a taxi cab where 98% of his fares that he's ever hauled around, he's ended up in some type of fucking accident? Would you say that man is efficient at his job? 3% of the time he gets people to their destination, but the rest of the time, well, accidents happen. It's just, if I could ask anything of anybody in this world, it's just to open your fucking mind, because things are not the way you have been told they are. Your parents unwittingly and unknowingly falsely conveyed information to you that they believed in their heart of hearts to be true, because they've been MK Ultra their entire fucking life, hearing the same putrid rhetoric over and over and over again, so much to the point that they actually fucking believe it. I once had my pops tell me, well, Derek, just some facts in life, buddy. And you just as well, I understand, you go against the grain. You always have. I get it. I won't pretend to understand it, but I've just kind of fucking accepted that is who you are. And I still love you just the same, but I want to tell you something. You're going to have a really fucking hard life, my friend, because you continually go against the grain. And I want to just tell you something. There are simple things that you have to do in this life. It's just the way it is. You have to eat, shit, sleep, shave, work, pay your taxes, and at the end of all of that, die. And those are the facts of life. And I was just like, okay, well, I agree with almost 80% of what you said, but the paying of taxes part, can we discuss that? He goes, Dirk, it's not up for fucking debate. Everybody knows they have to pay taxes. Everybody. Fuck. Okay, well, who told you that? Well, my parents, everybody, my uncles, my parents, my family, they're all good business people. Everybody knows you got to pay your fucking taxes, Derek. Everybody knows that. You didn't learn that? You don't know that? I go, no, I don't know that to be a fact. I know that a lot of mindless fucking motherfuckers go along to get along and follow what other people do, never knowing why exactly they're doing it, but feel somehow that it's correct and it's proper. I get that. I understand that 1,000 lemmings jumped off a fucking 10,000 foot cliff, so 1,000 more will do just the same, thinking that it's proper. I understand that a bunch of people on a fucking island drank a bunch of poison Kool-Aid because they thought that they were going somewhere special like Heaven's Gate or something. But it doesn't mean that all of us should be drinking the Kool-Aid, does it? Let's just think about that for a second. Here comes a comet. Oh, that's our way out of here, guys. Let's get some purple handkerchiefs, some new tennis shoes, dress in all black, drink some fucking Kool-Aid. Let's go for a ride. It just doesn't seem practical to me, and although it's a good idea for them, they think it is, I sure the fuck don't think following suit is beneficial to me. Just like the guy that likes to play Russian roulette, just because he's lived 97 times out of the 100, 97 times that he's played, he's survived, doesn't mean that I want to invite taking on those odds, right? So I guess I hope that I bring in this forum some sense of reality, just stepping back and looking at the big picture. Just look at it for what it is. They practiced mass genocide recently. Over the last 2 years, they've been injecting people with things that have not been scientifically proven to be safe. Okay. And about the time, 50,000 fucking pages were going to be released. A week before that, 9 pages were released of all the shit that was in those shots. Okay. Mass genocide, poisoning people, inducing people with things like gonorrhea, herpes, syphilis, advanced fucking HIV. The list just goes on and on and on. About the time they're getting ready to release the 50,000 pages of information that, by the way, they advocated they didn't want to release for 75 fucking years, okay? Like the Tzatziki experiment. We'll release the information after everybody that we fucked up is dead, and then we'll apologize. All of a sudden, Russia goes to war. You don't think that shit is fucking scripted? You guys don't think that that's a massive distraction to keep people from the world from revolting? Oh, here's a new shiny toy, guys. Pay attention to this. Oh, people are dying. People die every fucking day. It's a fact of life. And the sooner you accept that, the better off you are. But what typically isn't realized is that people are murdered by the governments of the world every day. For example, China's prison system. This is something many people don't realize about China's prison system. They harvest organs every fucking day. There are a number of doctors who have come out and spoken about it, how they go and take healthy men and women and whoever else is in prison, possibly children, and they harvest their organs and they fucking sell them. Now, if that's just not fucking absolutely absurd and disgusting and trigger people to stand up for human rights violations, I don't know what does. When you accept that shit and you do nothing about it, well, then you're part of the problem. Part of the problem. No apologies, just more debt. Yep. How about Australia locking up hundreds of kids into a coliseum and force vaccinating them against the wishes of their parents? That's dangerous, guys. The fact that that even happened should cause you to just be greatly fucking appalled. Recently, I saw that a young man in his, I think he was like 28 or 30, somewhere in that range, went to the hospital. He was coughing uncontrollably, and he ends up hacking up some nasty fucking thing that they pull out of his lungs after he got the old clot shot. It's amazing what is being hidden from people. I've got some very famous doctors now that are contacting me privately, talking to me. Many of these doctors are top-grade surgeons who have written countless books and that are circumvented throughout the world. I mean, they're circulating throughout the world. This is how great these medical doctors are, these surgeons are. And they've got books floating all over, and they're now reaching out to me going, hey, we know the truth. And a lot of us are being terminated. They're taking our licenses. They are threatening us with jail. They're threatening us with malpractice suits. Some of the people that have gotten a hold of me have, in fact, lost their license already. They have been extorted millions of dollars at this point, all for speaking the truth, all for telling the truth. And that should show you what society looks like in reality at this point. The people who stand for what's right, just, and fair so often are their integrity is called into question. They are relieved from their position. They are strongly and heavily scrutinized and then discredited and then tossed to the wayside no matter how much good they have done in their field, being experts about what they do. They've been tossed to the wayside. It now appears that there's some new information coming out about ivermectin curing cancer. You gotta be careful about the word cure, because the man who discovered that apricot seeds cures like 80% of the cancers out there, because he used the word cure, they put him in prison for 5 years. That was the only thing that man they could bring against him, is because he was using the word cure, and he was instructing people on how to do it. Also, we learned back in the 30s that frequency also stops cancer, but they quickly suppressed that information, hid it from the world, told anybody that was practicing frequency on people who were purportedly had cancer would be incarcerated for doing so. They hid the patent from the world. They broke into this man's house. They stole all his equipment. And this again was in the 30s, all right? Because helping people have a better lifestyle is not conducive for making money in the pharmaceutical industry, period. Cut and fucking dry. So anyway, enough about that rant. Let's get on to this this rebutted false argument of those who disagree with the information that's been provided to you for the last few weeks. And this comes from an attorney, and it's pretty impressive how they shut him down. A few people have disagreed with our opinion, or our position on the national and state national citizenship status of persons born in the State of the Union. These people have sent us what at first glance might appear to be contradictory information from websites maintained by the federal government. Surprise, fucking surprise, huh? We thank them for taking the time to do so, and and we will devote this section to rebutting all of their incorrect views. Now remember, these are lawyers writing to these people, and the people that came up with this writ, some of them were Air Force pilots, others were doctors, some of them are historians, and they all got together and they put this together. I mean, this is a group of people who are very devoted to doing their research, coming together, having meetings, discussing what they found, discussing different court cases and what they found and the pertinent information within. Most of these people are very articulate, and their reading level is well above a 5th grade reading level, okay? Larry B. Kraft, a famous Patriot attorney, sent out the following email to his many followers relating to citizenship, which we would like to respond to, that at first might appear to contradict what we have written about these facts, okay? Subject: the erroneous national argument. I know that the argument about nationals is circulating around, but it is wrong. To address this error, I posted the following at the Truth Attack website. Nationals in Paquet Bank versus Nope, 6 Ohio ST 342-393 Ohio 1856. That court defined a national government and contrasted it with the federal government. A national government is a government of the people of a single state or nation, united as a community by what is termed the social compact, okay? And possessing complete and perfect supremacy over persons and things, so far as they can be made the lawful objects of civil government. Now remember, we keep talking about civil statutory authority and who it applies to. The federal government is distinguished from a national government by it being the government of a community of independent and sovereign states united by compact. Black's Law Dictionary quotes this case in its definition of national government. The government of the United States is a federal government. But while many may understand this difference between national and federal government, even fewer understand in the reference to human beings who is a national of the United States. This sort of memo constitutes an introduction to this topic. In the late 1800s, the United States was beginning to assert power over islands not contagious to this country. Then Hawaii was conquered and made a territory. With time, the same thing happened to the Virgin Islands and the Philippines, Puerto Rico, Swanee Islands, Guam, the Northern Mariana Islands, and similar places. Congress began referring to citizens of those islands as persons owing a duty of allegiance to the United States or obedience to its laws. See 28 Stat 64. 32 Stat 694. Eventually, in the first few decades of the 20th century, a name for these people was developed. Examples of this name for these persons can be easily seen from a variety of pages appearing in the U.S. statutes at large. Now, there's going to be a lot of numbers here, but these are all the statutes at large. 28 Stat 53, 36 Stat 328, 37 Stat 499, 38 Stat 692, 38 Stat 818, 42 Stat 106, 47 Stat 142, 48 Stat 454, 48 Stat 456, 54 Stat 4, 57 Stat 4, 57 Stat 308, 58 Stat 101, 87 Stat 397, 87 Stat 635, 88 Stat 1444, 88 Stat 2064, 89 Stat 543, 90 Stat 269, 90 Stat 1268, 91 Stat 1212, 91 Stat 1214, 92 Stat 72, 92 Stat 1449, 96 Stat 2483, 97 Stat 661, 98 Stat 2302, 99 Stat 624, 100 Stat 1480, 116 Stat 2874, 117 Stat 2801, 117 Stat 2802, 120 stat 80, 121 stat 1743, and 123 stat 53. Okay, this is where these persons are being defined, and there's a lot of literature on it. Okay, so this is not conjecture. Okay, inherently, national means a citizen of the insular possession. One definition of the word appears in Title 24 CFR subsection 5.504, which states, national means a person who owes permanent allegiance to the United States, for example, as a result of birth in a United States territory or possession. We've talked about what a territory and possession of the United States is, okay? It's a federal enclave, the federal zone. In subsection 871-24.6096 of the Iowa Administrative Code, a national is defined as a person who lives in mandates or trust territories administered by the United States and owes permanent allegiance to the United States. An alien is a person owing allegiance to another country or government. In Washington Administrative Code, subsection 388-424-0-1, this word is defined as a person who owes permanent allegiance to the U.S. Now remember, the U.S. and the United States are separate entities, and may enter and work in the U.S. without restriction. The following are the only persons classified as U.S. nationals: persons born in American Samoa or Swanee Islands after December 24, 1952, and 2, residents of the Northern Mariana Islands who did not elect to become U.S. citizens. Often Congress uses in legislation the phrase citizen or national of the United States. When this appears in the context without definition, it means the citizens of the insular possessions, but just as often when a federal law encompasses a citizen or national, that act may provide a specific definition. Such act may define a U.S. person or citizen as being a citizen or national, and in this event, the definition word encompasses a citizen or national. It is important for students of the law to data mine the U.S. statutes at large. Our position on the above statement by Mr. Beecraft is this. Okay, so this is their response to what he was saying, that basically everybody is a United States citizen. There's no escaping it. It's just the way it is because, well, it's the way it is, all right? Now, in all fairness, Mr. Beecraft may, who is an attorney, may, at this point, have changed his mind since this was written. So, you know, not all hope is lost. Some people take constructive criticism and go back and review and change their mind. Lord knows I have changed my mind on many positions that I have had due to great people like yourselves sending me credible information that I can digest and go, I made an inaccurate assessment based upon the information that I had prior, and it's important for me to come back and show you guys what has been discovered. Now, this is their rebuttal. He does not seem to properly recognize the two contexts for citizenship, statutory and constitutional. These contexts are mutually exclusive and non-overlapping. He only refers to statutory civil context, which in the case of the national government is federal territory only and excludes states of the Union. Beechcraft doesn't even discuss the statutory definition of national found in Title 8 U.S.C. subsection 1101A21, and if he did, he would have to conclude that the term can in fact describe anyone in the world. Everything beyond the point of that omission operates upon false premise. Title 8 U.S.C. subsection 1101 definition A21. The term national means a person owing permanent allegiance to a state. Now, if you recall earlier, Beecraft was saying that nationals owe an allegiance to the federal territory, Title 28, 3002, 15A, and that's just the way it is. But when you further evaluate Title 8 U.S.C. subsection 1101, the actual definitions and intent, A21 says the term national means a person owing a permanent allegiance to the state. Now, Mr. Beecraft never articulates that, never goes in any further than what he believed to be correct, all right? People born in states of the Union and domiciled there are simply nationals. which are defined in Title 8 USC subsection 1101A21, and nationals of the United States under the common law as described in Perkins versus ELG 307 U.S. 325 1939. A national is legally defined as anyone having allegiance to a state. Which state is a state of the Union? Which state is a state of a union and a legislatively but not constitutionally foreign state, because it is in lowercase. State may also refer to the state formed by the Union of States under the United States Constitution. Even the penalty of perjury statement at the end of the USA passport application, the DS-11, Department of State Form DS-11 recognizes that all application for American passports must be either citizens of the United States or non-citizen nationals of the United States. Chances are that B. Kraft himself applied for and retained such a passport, and yet he contradicts his own testimony under penalty of perjury on the Department of State Form DS-11 by claiming that he is not a national. Note that the statutory definition of citizen found in Title 8 USC subsection 1401 also includes national status. So either way, B. Kraft is claiming to be a national by even applying for and accepting a United States of America passport, or it says USA passport. Now we're going to get into the DS-11 a little bit. Continue to page 2. Do not sign application until requested to do so by person administering the oath. Okay, there's an oath on the DS-11. But I want to point out something important here. I declare under the penalty of perjury all the following. 1. I am a citizen or non-citizen national of the United States and have not, since acquiring U.S. citizenship or nationality, performed any of the acts listed under acts and conditions. Remember how the other day I was telling you guys that when you fill out your passport, if you don't go to the acts and conditions part and cross out what does not apply, you actually admit to engaging in human trafficking, dealing drugs, being a felon, yada, yada, yada. It's a litmus test. It's there to see whether or not you're mentally competent and can read, or whether you are just completely inept, okay? And they have to lord over you and make you they more than welcome you into the federal territory, so they can lord over you, all right? Nobody ever reads the acts and conditions on the DS-11 form, and I never hear anybody out there talking about it. And this was something that was showed to me by Mr. Anonymous, and as you know, Mr. Anonymous went to law school and is very, very fucking ingenious, okay? On the reverse side of the application, unless explanatory statement is attached, the statement made on the application are true and correct. I have not knowingly and willfully made false statements or included false documents in support of this application. The photograph submitted with this application is genuine current photograph of me, and I have read and understand the warning on the page 2 of the instructions to the application form. Did you really read the warning on page 2? Most people do not. Secondly, did you provide an explanatory statement? Okay. Many people do not. Okay. B. Kraft has only 2 choices in responding to this supreme contradiction that he creates in his mind of the readers. Admit that he committed perjury on his passport application by calling himself a statutory national or citizen of the United States. This could land him in jail for up to 10 years per Title 18 USC subsection 1542, or admit that the terms on the Department of State Form DS-11 are political, constitutional, and not statutory in nature, in which case the statutory or regulatory definitions do not apply. Statutory regulatory definitions do not apply to the constitutional context in most cases and are limited to federal territories, okay? Are being misrepresented by him as also applying to statutory context. The statutory and constitutional context are mutually exclusive because of the separation of powers doctrine. Which is it, Mr. B. Kraft? We allege that the citizen of the United States in the above Department of State DS-11 form is a political constitutional term and not a statutory term, but that it is being fraudulently treated as equivalent to a statutory context by a corrupted government to usurp jurisdiction they in fact do not have. How do you explain this away, Mr. Beecraft? Or is it above one's pride to admit that they might be incorrect on this issue, or worse yet, don't know enough to talk intelligently about it? Beecraft doesn't understand the interaction of domicile with one's statutory civil status. We discussed that interaction ad nauseum earlier in Section 13, ETSEQ. You cannot have a civil status under the civil laws of a specific jurisdiction without a domicile within that jurisdiction. This fact is recognized in the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure 17b. Hence, people domiciled outside of a federal territory cannot have any civil status under federal law over which Congress has any civil jurisdiction, because they are in a legislative but not constitutionally foreign jurisdiction. Only through the operation of the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act, FSIA, Title 28 U.S.C. Chapter 97, and the long-arm statute of a specific state can such a civil status be acquired, and it must be consensually acquired through the operation of purposeful availment. In Undy versus Undy, 1869, LR1 HLSC period 441, the point described was one of inheritance, depending upon the question whether the domicile of the father was in England or in Scotland, he being in either alternative a British subject. Lord Chancellor Hatherley said, "The question of naturalization and of the allegiance is distinct from that of domicile." Page 452, Lord Westbury, in the passage relied on by the Council for the United States, began by saying, "The law of England and of almost all civilized countries ascribed to each individual at his birth two distinct legal states of or conditions, one by virtue of which he becomes the subject national of some particular country, binding him by the tie of natural allegiance, and which may be called his political status, another by virtue of which he has ascribed to him the character of citizen of some particular country, and as such is possessed of certain municipal rights and subject to certain obligations, which latter character is the civil status or condition of the individual, and may be quite different from his political status. And then, while maintaining that the civil status is universally governed by the single principle of domicile, domicilium, the criterion established by international law for the purpose of determining civil status, and the basis on which the personal rights of the party. That is to say, the law which determines his majority or minority, his marriage, succession, testacy, or intestacy, must depend he yet distinctly recognize that a man's political status, his country, patria, and his nationality. That's United States versus Wong Kim Ark 169 U.S. 649 18 S period CT period 456 42 L period ED period 890. The case was had in 1898. This subject is further discussed ad nauseum. We agree with Beecraft that people domiciled in states of the Union are not statutory nationals of the United States as defined in Title 8 U.S.C. subsection 1408 and 1452, and that these people include only those in American Samoa and Swanee Islands. We agree. In fact, we agree this status as the only status that Beecraft is referring to when he uses the word national. It is a big mistake to claim the status of statutory citizen of the United States, Title 28, 3002, 15A, a federal corporation, federal enclave, and territories, as defined in Title 8 U.S.C. subsection 1401 or Title 8 U.S.C. subsection 1101A22A. We don't advocate that people using this website claim to have any statutory civil status under federal law over which Congress has any civil legislative jurisdiction at all. We tell them that they cannot therefore be statutory nationals of the United States, Title 28, 3002, 15A, a federal corporation, federal territory, or enclave, or anything else under federal civil law. Rather, we tell them that they should refer to themselves with any of the following statuses over which Congress enjoys no legislative authority: American national but not statutory citizen, state national but not statutory citizen, national of the United States of America, states of the Union and not federal government or federal territories, national of the Constitution, nationals of the constitutional and not statutory United States, states of the Union and not federal government. The above approach is exactly the same approach that people and even the U.S. government take when describing people from other countries who are visiting here, such as Mexican nationals. People should not be using the word United States in describing any aspect of themselves because it invites a confusion of context between the constitutional and the statutory meaning. People born in states of the Union and domiciled there are not statutory citizens or residents, all of whom must share a domicile on federal territory in order to have any civil status whatsoever under the International Revenue Code, as required by Federal Rules of Civil Procedure 17. Statutory nationals of the United States, Title 28, 3002, 15A, federal enclave, corporation, blah, 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 at birth, or U.S. nationals pursuant to Title 8 U.S.C. subsection 1408, or Title 8 U.S.C. subsection 1452. The U.S. Supreme Court has recognized that in a statutory context only, that the only remaining non-citizen national are those in American Samoa and Swanee Islands. Nationality and citizenship are not entirely synonymous. One can be a national of the United States and yet not a citizen. Title 8 U.S.C. subsection 1101 A22. The distinction has little practical impact today. However, for the only remaining non-citizen national are residents of the American Samoa and Swanee Islands. C.T. Alinkoff, D. Martin, and H. Matoma, Immigration Process and Policies 974 through 975 in period 2, 3D, ED, period 1995. The provisions that a child born abroad out of the wedlock of the United States citizen mother gains her nationality has been interpreted to mean that the child gains her citizenship as well. Thus, if the mother is not just a United States national but also a United States citizen, the child is a United States citizen. C7 Gordon, subsection 93.042B, page 93 through 42, ID, subsection 93.042D, VIII, page 93 through 49. Miller versus Albright, 523 U.S. 420, 1998. However, as we just said, we tell people in states of the Union that the civil statutory context of the federal law has no jurisdiction over those domiciled in the state of the Union. Hence, they cannot have any civil statutory status to which any public rights or obligations can attach. This is direct result of the separation of powers doctrine that forms the heart of the United States Constitution and is recognized in Title 40 U.S.C. subsection 3112. The statutory context is not the only context in which the term national can be or is used. It can also be used in either a constitutional context or a common law context. In the common law context, people in the United States, people in states of the Union are, in fact, statutory nationals but not statutory citizens. On occasion, we have referred to people born in states of the Union as nationals of the United States of America, and then carefully clarified the term United States of America to exclude any part of the statutory United States, Title 28, 3002, 15A, Federal Enclave, Federal Territory, so on and so forth, District of Criminals in Columbia, as used in Title 8 of the USC Code, to include only states of the Union. However, to avoid this kind of confusion, it is easier just to use the same terminology as found in Title 26 USC subsection 7701 B1B and Title 8 USC subsection 1101 A21, national, and to avoid any confusing use of any of the following suffixes: United States, United States of America, USA. To avoid confusion, it's best to avoid the use of the term citizen in describing yourself, because the statutory sense of that word also implies a legal domicile within the legislative jurisdiction of the federal government, which is not true for persons domiciled in states of the Union. To simply refer to yourself as a whatever state you're born in, Arizona, national, where the underline refers to the state of the Union you were born in, this will avoid all associations with the federal government. When presented with a government form asking if you are a U.S. citizen, one should answer no, and then write next to it constitutional but not statutory citizen. If the recipient of the form won't let you modify the form, then attach a statement redefining the words on that form so that it is consistent with what appears here. Therefore, we agree mostly with Larry B. Kraft, but we don't agree that saying one is a national under Title 8 U.S.C. subsection 1101A21, but not a statutory citizen of the United States under Title 8 U.S.C. subsection 1401 is a mistake, as long as the context is defined as constitutional and common law and not statutory. He is well-intentioned, but his views reflect an incomplete understanding and an outright refusal to recognize or even define the context for the words he uses. The reason is that he wants to aid and abet the identity theft that is facilitated by the equivation of geographical terms that he deliberately and deceptively uses. This is typical of most lawyers or attorneys, as was pointed out above. Our position found in this memorandum is consistent with most of what he said above. By the way, Richard McDonald used the same conventions on his website and in his the Vicer discussion of citizenship as deceiver discussion of citizenship as we use, and we have never seen Larry B. Kraft attack Richard's approach. The above website went offline in 2015, according to archive.org. We thank Larry for caring enough to even address this topic, which is more than most attorneys do. However, he only adds to the confusion by not clearly addressing the two contexts for legal terms, and which context applies to each and every word he or others use or misuse. It's simply preposterous, injurious, and wrong to do. Always interpret words people use as meaning the statutory context. Use only statutory to disprove their usage of the terms. This ignores and damages those, such as us, who use the constitutional and political context and exclude the statutory context. The common law and the law of nations creates and implies definitions and context for words that are completely foreign and not subject to the statutory definitions, because they protect private rights, unalienable rights, that are not and cannot be subject to the statutes. Presume to the great injury of those who are damaged by the presumption that the statutory and constitutional context for geographical words of art are either equivalent or interchangeable. Presume that the term national, as used in the title of this document or in Title 8 U.S.C. subsection 1101A21, includes national mentioned in Title 8 U.S.C. subsection 1408 and Title 8 U.S.C. subsection 1452. It simply does not. Any of the above results in criminal identity theft as exclusively documented in the following. The term national, as used in Title 8 U.S.C. subsection 1101A21, is an example of the term that has a political meaning because it references allegiance to the legislative foreign state and has no obligation or privileges under national law that attach to the status. By national, as used in Title 8 U.S.C. subsection 1101A21, we believe is meant one who has nationality within the country United States. That in fact is why no privileges or rights attach to that status, because it is a constitutional right constitutionally protected right rather than a statutory privilege. Finally, this court is mindful of the years of past practice in which the territorial citizenship has been treated as a statutory privilege and not a constitutional right. In the unincorporated territories of Puerto Rico, Guam, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and the Northern Mariana Islands, birthright citizenship was conferred upon their inhabitants by various statutes many years after the United States acquired them. See amicus brief 80 at 10-11. If the citizenship clause guaranteed birthright citizenships in unincorporated territories, these statutes would have been unnecessary. Tua versus USA 951 F period SUPP period 2D period 88 2013 was the year of the case. Beechcraft's response. We sent the above to Mr. Beechcraft. In response, all that Mr. Beechcraft could do is call us nasty and offer Supreme Court sites that deliberately confuse or cloud constitutional and statutory context to make it appear as though they are equivalent. As I often state, lots of people in this movement, especially the gurus, are some of the nastiest people you can ever meet. And now, I conclude that this observation includes you. I fully understand that you have a vested interest in continuing to promote the baseless national argument with which I disagree. Now you make demands to which I state that you can take a hike. Let me act like you. I hereby demand the following. 1, that you can't... contact every person that you have misled about this argument and admit that you have been incorrect. And 2, that you tell each of them that your argument about foreign is contrary to decisions of the courts. See attached. I am now deleting all contact information for you, Larry. He said he wouldn't talk with us about it and terminated communication, thus abandoning the field of rational argument and admitting that our research was correct pursuant to Federal Rules of Civil Procedure 8B6. You can read the interchange and our response below. You be the judge. When we come back, we'll get into that. I just think it's very funny how a lawyer so quickly throws in the towel and reaches to slander and defame people using derogatory statements such as nasty because, well, he can't get them to think like he thinks. And unfortunately for most lawyers, they're indoctrinated to see things a certain way because it's good for the establishment. It's profitable, ladies and gentlemen. As I said, war is never won with guns, bullets, and guts. It's won with brains and a fucking pen and a piece of paper. That's how wars are won. That's how wars are declared. That's how wars are ended, okay? And with that, when we come back, I'm going to take a small smoke break. We'll get into to the context of the actual conversation between Beechcraft and these fine gentlemen who have put a plethora of information together for you to be able to make an educated decision for yourself of whether you want to be a statutory, national, which means that you are subject to civil statutory codes, rules, regulations, and provisions, or whether you want to, declare yourself to have an allegiance to the state, being a Union state member, part of the Confederation, and therefore assert your rights and your protections underneath the state constitutions, guaranteed by the state constitutions, and guaranteed as well by the Constitution for the United States of America, not of the United States of America. As you know, after 1871, that all rolled over. It all changed, okay? But anyway, we'll come back and we'll get on this. I hope this information is helping you. Share it with your friends and family. At least have an interesting conversation about it, nevertheless. It doesn't hurt to talk. Just remember to be civil with one another if one can be. And if you can't be nice, well, then just terminate the conversation, because words so often destroy relationships. Remember, you can't take back some of the shit you say. It will forever leave a lasting scar and impression on people. So all you can do is plant the seeds, maybe water it a little bit, and see if it grows. If it grows, great. If it don't, well, it is what it is. Don't force your thoughts and opinions on other people. All you can do is provide the information, and if they receive it, they take it, and they flourish from it, good on you.